Good afternoon. It is my honor to present the next speaker, who's represented this 8th Congressional District in California since 1987. Her long-term focus on strengthening the middle class is well known. From 2007 to 2010, Nancy Pelosi served as Speaker of the House, having been elected the first woman in history to serve so. Though significant, that's not the first time she's made history. In 2002, when the Democrats elected her the first woman to lead a political party. And she served as Democratic leader from 2003 to 2007, and she previously served in a capacity that means a lot to me personally as House Democratic Whip in 2002. What's significant also to all of us in this audience is when anti-network neutrality legislation was being pushed through the Congress in 2006, she was there. She came out in strong support of an open internet, something that means everything to all of us, and she urged her caucus to defeat harmful legislation. Congresswoman, my leader, Nancy Pelosi, understands the importance of diverse local independent media, something that means everything to all of us. You've got a friend in Nancy Pelosi. You've got a history maker in Nancy Pelosi, and you have a strong voice in Nancy Pelosi. With that, the next voice you will hear is a Democratic leader of the 112th House of Representatives, Nancy Pelosi.
Good afternoon. Thank you all very much. Thank you for your nice reception. Thank you for what you do to strengthen our democracy. Thank you, Mignon Clyburn, Commissioner Clyburn, for your warm introduction, for your tremendous service to our country, for your support of net neutrality to pass the regulations and now to help strengthen them. We're very, very proud of you. I'm honored to be here with you, Commissioner Clyburn, and also to be here with Michael Copps, Commissioner Michael Copps. I don't know, Michael. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. I'm very happy to be here because I'm very excited about what you do. I'm very happy to be here at this time, and I would be no matter what was going on in Washington, D.C. But to be here in Boston, Massachusetts, to talk about free press, which is, in my view, essential to our, not only essential, the most important element of our democracy. I was talking to a smaller group earlier, I have some of your friends here, and I mentioned that being in Boston reminded me that at the time of the founding of our country, a message could travel only as fast as a horse could gallop or a ship could sail. And still they were able to spread the word about declaring independence, establishing a new country, writing a constitution. Thank God they made it amendable. That made us the freest people in the world. What an obligation we have to our founders then to strengthen that democracy when we can communicate, not as fast as a horse or a boat, but as in real time. And we must take that opportunity. We have an obligation to use it for transparency, yes, to strengthen our democracy. I'm pleased that I'm to be here with Josh Silver and congratulate him on his great work that he has done. Wish him well as he goes forward. And with Craig, let's hear it for Josh Silver. Do that. And to wish Craig Aaron, your new president CEO, the new president CEO, much success. Many of my members, we're on 1 hour notice. You know, they're 1 hour and then we have to run to the airport or whatever. And so many of my colleagues had hoped to be here, and I hope they will. Ed Markey, Mike Doyle, Congresswoman Anna Eshoo, Congresswoman Donna Edwards, all champions of a for net neutrality, for freedom on the internet. Today, Congresswoman Eshoo, as chair, as ranking member, hopefully soon to be chair of the telecommunications subcommittee, led the fight on the floor against a bill that doesn't agree with our point of view about freedom on the internet and net neutrality. I'm very pleased with the Democratic vote that we received. I don't think this bill is going anyplace, but I was very proud of the Democratic assault against it. Media reform is about the core value of our country. It's freedom of the press. I always say, if I had one freedom of all, the freedom of the press to assemble, to associate, to express our freedom of speech, freedom of religion, the rest, the one freedom that I think protects our democracy the most is freedom of the press. To be able to make judgments about injustices in society, disagreements with government, to be able to have transparency about what's going on makes our democracy is essential to our democracy. Today, the principles are upheld and advanced in what you have talked about, media, technology, and democracy. That encompasses a great deal. It's a broad, comprehensive subject, and I'm so glad that you are focusing on it in such a very smart way. That's why in Washington and everyone in this room have fought again for the open internet. We fought for an open internet because no one should guard the gate of our freedom of speech. No one should be guarding the gate on the internet. It also stimulates economic growth, creates jobs. Chairman Januszkowski has said that it has been central in creating thousands of new businesses and over 1 million new jobs. To put it another way, an open internet is important to us because it ensures competition in our economy and encourages innovation. That in itself is enough justification. There are those in Congress who disagree, who oppose net neutrality and want to set back the cause of a free and open internet. As I mentioned earlier today, the vote was taken, went almost completely down party lines because they want to set this back. But we cannot let them happen, and I have every reason to believe, Ed Markey told me this morning, this is going nowhere in the Senate, so don't worry about it. But we just have to keep up the fight so the public knows what is at stake for our democracy, but what is at stake for them. With the efforts like Free Press, Save the Internet campaign will reaffirm a fundamental truth. An open internet is a cornerstone of a free people in the 21st century. And I'm here to say thank you to each and every one of you for the role you are playing in that. In the halls of Congress, we're also about promoting diversity in our communications, in our media, through public broadcasting and supporting local radio stations. Imagine that one of the first bills that the new majority brought to the floor of Congress was a bill to cut the funding of National Public Radio. With all the concerns that we have in the world, with all of the need to create jobs, and we haven't seen one bill on that yet, but they would take it upon themselves to have emergency rules brought forward to take up this bill on its own. You know, they have plenty of opportunity, and they use it to have amendments to this effect, but they did it as a standalone bill, and it required emergency powers to do so. So focused are they on defunding National Public Radio. It's not about the budget. It's not that, in light of the budget, we're not talking about overwhelming amounts of money, but we are talking about freedom of expression. And we are talking about not having content restriction on our airwaves, whether they are publicly funded or otherwise. So we have a big fight. And again, you know, you have helped shape the debate, and they are shaping it under the guise of deficit reduction. That's not where it is. We're fighting, working together. We're all fighting to fund NPR, PBS, and their local affiliates. Working together, we have enacted Local Community Radio Act, the Radio Act, a bipartisan bill, that one was, to create thousands of low-power FM stations in cities and towns nationwide. And together, this was very important. We had to fight a lot of powerful interest on this. We fought and won the SHIELD law to protect and preserve the press's ability to speak truth to power, and to do so in a way that struck the careful balance between liberty and security in our country. That really, we had lots of opponents on that one. We want to have more choices on the air. That's what a free press means preserving quality reporting to keep the public informed and keeping our democracy strong. And we must act to combat cuts and strengthen diversity. I wanted to tell you this story. As speaker and as leader before that and now, as I travel throughout the world, and when I made a special trip to the Middle East to go to as many countries there as possible, say 3 or 4 years ago, every place I went, you know, they roll out the red carpet, presidents, prime ministers, and kings to welcome us and exchange views. And I always say when I go to these places, that's nice, but I want to meet with young people, I want to meet with women, and if it's not dangerous to them, I want to meet with dissidents. And I tell you this because on those trips, sometimes the women and the young people are very much the same group. But these young people in every country, whether it was a poor kid on the streets of Damascus or a postdoctoral candidate in Saudi Arabia home for a vacation, or a young person, a student on the West Bank, or a young person in Lebanon, wherever they were, they had the same message. They said, we are weary of war. We are tired of our leaders. We believe that they are using war, the threat of war, or the threat of violence as an excuse not to build a better future for us. We don't even know if they know how to create jobs because they just haven't done it. We are impatient with it, this impatience of youth. I spoke at Cornell, I spoke at Hopkins, I spoke at a number of universities at commencement addresses and told them of this in the years that have ensued in the last few years, that this is what I was hearing from young people. And they almost used the same language. It was almost the exact same message. I, at the time, was being criticized for visiting Syria, and they didn't understand that. You know, they're like, what, you don't communicate, you don't engage, you don't talk to people. We talk to each other within our country, we talk to each other across borders. Young people in the world are connected and interconnected. And now we see, I mean, I should have gotten a clue of what would happen and the way that it happened. What was interesting to me, though, is as recently as last night, I heard from a scholar who verified this, that in Egypt, when the young people were on the streets, and by the way, women and labor people from aspire to form unions and the rest out there in the streets, when they were there the first day, the second day, it was all very encouraging and this or that, and they were gathering support in the country. But I think it was the third day, Mubarak shut down the internet and every other new technology. Well, that was the end. That was the end. That just made the movement ever even bigger. He just didn't understand. And a scholar told me last night, he said he was shutting down the internet and the new technologies when he was fighting back with camels and horses. You know, it just wasn't, but it really electrified many more people to say, we must make change. And so you know the list of countries where so much change has happened because of that. I told you about most of the countries in the Middle East. You know the action of a fruit vendor in Tunisia was communicated in real time across the globe. It changed Tunisia almost immediately. That spread to Egypt, and we've talked about that. In Tehran, the media spread the word, and images of a young woman beaten and killed for standing up for her freedom. In China, from more than 2 decades ago, the picture of the man before the tank went throughout the world. Now, Charter 9, which is in the new technologies, Charter 08 began as an online petition in China calling for reform and democracy. The Liu Xiaobo, the author of that, is, of course, in prison. He won the Nobel Prize. The picture of the empty chair with the Nobel Prize sitting on it was communicated through the new and old media throughout the world. Ai Weiwei, who helped build the bird's nest of the Olympics, is under arrest now as artist and free thinker in terms, as far as the Chinese government is concerned, committed economic crimes because he thought in a more, as they say, liberal way. But again, the world knows about it because of many of you. In the Sudan, a group of activists started Satellite Sentinel Project using technology to monitor human rights violations and try to stop genocide. As one of the project organizers said, it's a lot harder to commit mass atrocities in the glare of the media spotlight. Together with technology, we can send a clear message. The world is watching. Indeed, the world is watching how media and technology have been central to promoting democracy. We've seen the internet become a vehicle for change. We've seen new media connect communities clamoring for freedom and giving voice to those who once were scared to speak out. Across the globe, change the media, change the world rings true. I know that is the theme of your conference. And in this era of sweeping change in our interconnected world, we must use our own voices in Congress, in international organizations, as advocates to raise awareness. Now, some of the people that I ran into when I got here earlier were talking to me about the health care bill. And they said, we were there, we were helping, we were communicating the message about the health care reform bill, and I thank them for their help in helping us pass that. And I want to thank you, too, because I know that's not the subject of this meeting, but the subject is communication and changing the world. When we were fighting for this, the press came and said, how are you ever going to pass this? This is impossible. It looks impossible to pass it. And I said to them, well, we're going to pass it because that's our responsibility. It's our chance of a generation. If it goes away now, it'll be another 30 years. We've been waiting 100 years to do this, or longer, but they've been trying for 100 years. And so we're going to go up to the gate, and we're going to push it open. And if the gate doesn't open, we're going to climb the fence, and the fence is too high, we're going to pole vault in, and if that doesn't work, we're going to parachute in. But we're not going to let anything stand in the way of having health care as a right, not a privilege in our country. So after it was all over, they came to me and they said, well, which one did you do? And I said, well, we actually pushed open the gate. We went up there 220 strong, and I think, again, this is not a political occasion, but for those of you who supported health care and sent somebody to Congress to do so, we had 220 strong to push open the gate. And we did, but we did not do it alone. All of you who cared about that issue, who tweeted, who Facebook, to YouTube, to text, to whatever, about what was happening when and when to weigh in or communicate with a member of Congress, all of you were there with us pushing open that gate. And when we pushed it open, we made it a right, not a privilege in our country, health care. And so we thought we were getting back to our founders now, at the beginning of all this, that we were honoring the vows of our founders for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness by giving people a healthier life, the liberty to pursue their own happiness. And that liberty is what you all are all about. The morning after we passed the bill, the president called and said, last night when you passed the health care bill on the floor, I was happier than the night I was elected president of the United States. And I said, well, I was pretty happy last night too, Mr. President, but I wasn't happier than the night you were elected President of the United States. Because if you weren't elected President of the United States, without your dedication, your advocacy, your leadership, your inspiration, we would not have passed it. We wouldn't have passed it without him, without Ted Kennedy. It took everything. Ted Kennedy's inspiration. It took everything we had. We couldn't have done it without them. We could not have done it without you. So I hope you take some level of pride in the role that you played as we just finished observing the one-year anniversary of that important liberation for the American people. But back to you and back to the free press. We're just all counting on you because nothing we can do of any greatness in the Congress can happen, whether it's healthcare or whatever, can happen without the outside mobilization. There will be tons, unimaginable sums, an endless spigot of money spent against some of what we care about in terms of freedom of the internet. I can't understand why it's even a discussion. I keep saying, let's divide up in the room. Who's for the future and who's for yesterday? Why is everybody not on the side of the future when it comes to the internet? Well, you know what, there's some obstacles and interventions there. But what they may have in terms of dollars, we have you, we have transparency. We know one thing with great confidence. We are right. Do we not know that? Thank you all for the opportunity to be with you. Thank you for what you are doing. I wish you much success in your conference. Our hopes are riding on you to take us further down the road to media, technology, democracy, change the media, change the world. Thank you all very much.